Time usually marches in a straight, obedient line, 1 second neatly following the next. But every so often, a fracture appears, a seam, a door hiding inside an ordinary moment. Step through, and memory echoes forward, greeting moments that haven't yet arrived. The future loops back to meet you, and the familiar becomes just slightly, unmistakably wrong. Welcome, traveler, to the door between 2 seconds. Step carefully. The moment you entered is already behind you. Episode 11. The Man Who Outlived His Own Warning. The first odd thing Leonard noticed that morning was that someone had left a note on his kitchen table in his own handwriting, telling him not to go to work. It wasn't the advice that bothered him. He hated his job at the Municipal Archival Center, but the fact that he hadn't written it. He was almost sure he hadn't. The signature was unquestionably his, right down to the way he looped the L as if apologizing for it. Don't go in today. You. Leonard stared at the note, tried to remember writing it, and failed. His mind was as blank as the morning sky outside his window, cloudless, unhelpful. He set the note aside, finished tying his shoes, and went to work anyway, because that was what people did when they were reasonably sure they weren't having a breakdown. The second odd thing happened at precisely 9:17 a.m., when the building fire alarm screamed with the unmistakable urgency of a machine designed by someone who had personally experienced one too many emergencies. The entire staff shuffled into the hallway, some annoyed, some confused, all underpaid. The alarm wasn't for a fire. The red arrow above the exit blinked, then flickered, then swung until it pointed directly at Leonard as though the building had grown tired of subtlety. Must be a glitch, Leonard muttered, addressing no one in particular. But no one answered. They just shifted aside, creating a corridor down the middle of the hall, leaving him standing as the accidental main character in a scene he didn't remember auditioning for. He went outside because the arrow clearly wanted him out of the building, and arguing with a fire system felt like tempting the wrong kind of fate. The sky was the wrong color of blue. It had a bruised quality, as if whoever was in charge of skies that day had tried to fix a tear with mismatched paint. Clouds drifted in spirals that made his stomach twist. He shoved his hands into his jacket and felt something crinkle. Another note. Stop walking. Seriously. You, again. Leonard didn't stop walking. It wasn't defiance. He simply had no idea what else to do with his legs. The third odd thing happened at the bus stop. An elderly woman in a floral coat tapped him lightly with her cane. "You're late," she said. "For what?" Leonard asked. "For the moment, dear." She smiled with the weary fondness of someone who had seen this sort of thing before and had not been impressed the first time. She stepped onto a bus that wasn't on any route he recognized. Its wheels hovered a centimeter above the ground. The doors sighed shut, and it drifted away. Leonard decided, reasonably under the circumstances, that he was either losing his mind or the universe had started beta testing a new user experience without telling anyone. Either way, he needed sugar. He headed for the corner bakery. The door was locked. The lights were off. A handwritten sign hung in the window. Closed, due to cosmic intervention. Sorry for the inconvenience. The exclamation mark offended him. If the cosmos was intervening, the punctuation should reflect appropriate gravity. He turned around and found himself face to face with himself. The man standing there was older by 5, maybe 6 years. Same eyes, same nose, same way of standing, like his back didn't entirely trust chairs. But the resignation was new. It sat around his shoulders like a coat he'd forgotten how to take off. "You ignored the notes," future Leonard said. Leonard blinked. Apparently. Future Leonard sighed the way only someone who had rehearsed disappointment could sigh. He reached into his own pocket and handed Leonard a third scrap of paper. "This is your last chance." You, increasingly annoyed Leonard, read it, then looked up. Last chance for what? For the moment, future Leonard said. You're all very fond of that word, Leonard said. The woman at the bus stop used it too. What moment? Future Leonard tilted his head, studying him with a kind of sad amusement. It's the moment you realize you could have chosen differently. Leonard waited for something more dramatic. Prophecies, lightning, a choir. That's it? He asked. That's it, future Leonard said. It's always less dramatic than you think. That's why people miss it. A wind rose, not a normal wind, but a deliberate one. Papers skittered along the sidewalk. A stoplight blinked twice and then dimmed, as if deciding it had done enough for one lifetime. A pigeon on a lamppost fixed Leonard with a look of unnerving empathy. Future Leonard stepped closer. This is where your life forks, he said gently. Not into disaster and glory, nothing that's cinematic. Just into the version where you keep drifting and the version where you don't. Leonard swallowed. So which one do I pick? Future Leonard's eyes softened. You already did. That's why I'm here. Leonard felt something cold twist in his chest. So I chose wrong. No, future Leonard said. You chose what you could live with at the time. The universe doesn't demand courage. It just keeps score. Above them, the clouds tightened into a spiral, opening like an eye. Future Leonard put a hand on his shoulder. You'll understand in a moment, he said. Then he stepped backward into the street and vanished the way a thought vanishes when you try too hard to remember it. Leonard stood alone on the sidewalk, holding the note. You can still choose. You, one last time. The air around him felt expectant, not pressuring, just waiting. He realized for the first time that all his choices so far had been inertia in disguise. He had moved, certainly, but never with intention. The days had carried him like a lazy river carries a leaf. And now, everything, the sky, the alarms, the future version of himself with the tired eyes, had conspired to tell him one simple, infuriating thing. Pay attention. The universe didn't care what he chose, not really. It just wanted him awake when he did it. He took a breath. He thought about going back to the archival center, to the files and the fluorescent lights, and the never-ending, politely labeled requests. He thought about the novel draft on his home computer, the one he opened twice a year to prove to himself it still existed. He thought about the way he always told himself he would change once things calmed down, knowing full well they never would. He folded the notes together, once, twice, until they were a small square against his palm. Then he chose. The choice wasn't cinematic. There were no trumpets. He simply turned his body in a direction he had never allowed it to face and started walking, heart pounding, legs unsteady, mind screaming that this was irresponsible, ridiculous, reckless. The sky blinked. The wind relaxed. Somewhere beyond his understanding, something vast nodded, made a small notation, and moved on. Leonard didn't know where his new path led. He only knew it was his, and that, as the universe later recorded somewhere impossible, was enough. You don't always get another note. If you're still paying attention, the door knows.